You're here because you want to get smart, fast, on the stuff that matters. We get it.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what we do here. Take a complex topic, dive deep, and bring you the crucial knowledge without, all the noise.
Mm-hmm.
Today, we're zeroing in on something called politically exposed persons. PPs, for short.
Right. PEPs.
It might sound a bit niche, maybe, but it's really a cornerstone of how the financial world tries to keep things, clean.
It really is. And our sources provide a very clear picture of what defines a PP and, maybe more importantly, why understanding this definition is absolutely vital
Vital for whom, exactly?
for pretty much anyone operating in or even just interacting with the financial system.
Okay. So our mission today, let's cut through the jargon, really unpack this concept of PPs for you.
Sounds good.
We'll look at who exactly falls into this category, explore why their status triggers heightened scrutiny,
Yeah, that enhanced scrutiny part is key.
and lay out the measures that are in place to manage the potential risks involved.
Okay.
Let's get right into it then. Fundamentally, what is a PEP?
Okay. So, in essence, a politically exposed person is an individual who holds, or importantly, has held a significant public role.
Right, past or present.
Exactly. Either domestically or on the international stage. And what's really interesting here is that this designation, it immediately flags them for enhanced scrutiny by financial institutions.
And that scrutiny, it isn't about assuming guilt.
Not at all.
Uh,
It's crucial to stress that. It's more a pragmatic recognition of the potential, potential for their powerful position to be misused.
Okay, so it's about the inherent risks tied to certain powerful roles,
Yeah.
regardless of the specific person holding them.
Precisely.
And this definition, it's not just one simple category, is it? Our sources mention different types.
They do, yeah. And understanding these distinctions is pretty important. First up, you have domestic PPs.
Okay, like who?
Think heads of state, government ministers, senior judges, top military commanders, key figures in the central bank, all within one country.
Got it. Your homegrown prominent figures.
Exactly. Then you've got foreign PPs. As the name suggests, these are individuals holding similar prominent public roles, but in other countries.
Right.
And it's worth noting, foreign PPs often present, well, an even greater letter of risk,
Why is that?
because you've got the added complexities of international transactions, different regulatory landscapes. And think about it, the challenge isn't just different rules, it's often harder to get reliable information about a foreign official's finances compared to a domestic one.
Yeah, that makes sense. That information gap, that asymmetry, is a key vulnerability.
Absolutely. More borders, more potential for opacity, as you said.
And it goes beyond just national governments. What about big international bodies?
Precisely. That's the next category. International organization, PPs.
Like the UN, World Bank.
Yep. Senior leaders within bodies like the United Nations, the World Bank, the IMF, regional development banks too, their global influence, their reach. It also means they need a higher level of due diligence. But the definition, it actually goes even wider. And this is where, the potential for hidden influence really comes into play.
Oh, expand on that for us.
Well, we're talking about family members and close associates.
Okay, so not just the person in the big job.
No. This includes spouses, children, parents, siblings, even people known to be close business partners of a PET.
Why so broad?
It acknowledges a critical reality. Corruption, illicit money, it doesn't always flow directly through the main person.
Okay.
It could very easily be channeled through their network, their connections.
So it's really about tracing the potential pathways of money and influence, even if it's not directly in the PEP's own name.
Exactly that. The potential for those connected to a PP family, associates to have access to or maybe control over assets, that's a significant concern for financial institutions.
Right.
So this wider net, it reflects this global understanding that misusing power isn't just about the individual. It can involve their whole inner circle.
Which naturally leads to the big question, why? Why this intense focus on these individuals and their connections? What's the core concern driving all this?
Yeah, it's a fair question. Because as you said earlier, it's not like everyone in these roles, or their families, is automatically doing something wrong.
Right, definitely not.
Absolutely. It's so vital to underscore that being called a PP is not an accusation.
No.
Not at all.
But
But the nature of their position, their influence, it just inevitably carries a heightened risk. Risk of corruption, money laundering, abuse of power. It really comes down to opportunity and influence.
So it's about managing the potential for bad stuff to happen, given the power they hold. It's a risk mitigation thing.
Precisely. Our sources highlight that while people with illicit intentions might actually try to exploit a PP's status,
Oh,
to
so.
get preferential treatment maybe, or even just to skirt the usual regulatory checks. Imagine someone with dirty money trying to cozy up to a high-ranking official to, smooth the path for a dodgy deal or just avoid scrutiny.
Okay, I see the logic there. It's about vulnerability. So what specific things trigger those red flags for banks or financial firms when they're dealing with a PP or someone linked to them?
Several things definitely raise the alert level. An unclear or unverifiable source of wealth is a big one.
Like, they can't explain where the money came from.
Exactly. If it's not transparent how they got their money. Also, transactions involving offshore accounts, especially in places known for financial secrecy. That's a classic sign.
Right, the tax havens and such.
hmm Similarly, dealing in really high-value assets, luxury goods, fancy real estate, expensive art, or using complex, opaque ownership structures, shell companies, trusts, that kind of thing,
Why are those things specifically concerning?
because they can be tactics used to disguise where money really came from and who actually controls it, hiding the trail.
Okay, so with these potential dangers clearly identified, what's being done about it? Are there global rules or frameworks to handle PPs?
Yes, there are. We're talking about the Global Anti-Money Laundering and Counter-Terrorist Financing Frameworks,
Mm-hmm.
AML-CFT.
Right.
And a key player here is the Financial Action Task Force, or FATF.
FATF, okay. Heard of them.
Yeah, they set the international standards that most countries around the world commit to putting into practice.
Yeah.
And when it comes to PPs, the expected standard is something called Enhanced Due Diligence, EDD.
Enhanced due diligence, EDD. Okay, sounds intensive. More than just the standard know your customer checks.
Oh, definitely. EDD involves several key requirements that go much deeper.
Like what?
Well, first, financial institutions have to figure out if a client is a PP right at the start when they're onboarding them, and then they have to periodically recheck that status. It's not a one-and-done thing.
Makes sense. People move in and out of roles.
Exactly. They also have to conduct much deeper inquiries to understand the source of the client's total wealth.
Not just the money in this transaction.
Right. The whole picture. Where did all their wealth come from? And also the specific origin of the funds involved in the transactions they're doing now. So it's source of wealth and source of funds.
Wow, okay. That is a significant step up in scrutiny. What else does EDD involve?
There's ongoing continuous monitoring of the account activity, looking for any unusual or suspicious patterns.
Such a...
Maybe flagging unusually large transactions, lots of transfers going to or coming from high-risk countries, or just activity that doesn't seem to fit with what they know about the client's financial profile.
Okay.
Critically, establishing or even just maintaining a business relationship with a PP usually needs explicit approval from senior management within the bank or firm.
So it gets escalated. Another layer of oversight.
Precisely. And finally, if any of those red flags pop up, if something looks suspicious, there's a mandatory obligation to report it promptly to the relevant regulatory authorities.
That does sound like a pretty comprehensive set of requirements. What happens if institutions don't follow these rules? What are the downsides?
Oh, the consequences can be quite severe. We're talking significant financial penalties,
Yeah.
huge regulatory fines. And beyond the money, there's substantial, often lasting reputational damage. No bank wants to be splashed across headlines as, the place where corrupt officials stash their cash.
Yeah, definitely not good for business. Okay, so it seems like a robust system, at least on paper. But our sources also hinted that actually identifying these PEP in the real world, it can be pretty challenging.
That's a really, really critical point, yes. Despite this clear need to know who's a PEP, there isn't one single, universal, easily accessible list of all the PEPs in the world.
No master list, really.
Nope. And this lack of a definitive resource, well, it creates a whole bunch of practical difficulties.
I can imagine.
It not only makes compliance much harder for financial institutions, they have to invest in complex, often imperfect systems to try and figure it out.
Right.
But it also, frankly, creates opportunities for some individuals to maybe intentionally obscure their PEP status when they operate across different countries.
Okay, so what makes it so complicated in practice? What are the specific hurdles they face?
Well, for starters, the availability and just the basic reliability of public data. Who holds which official job, it varies massively from country to country.
Some places are more transparent than others.
Exactly. Some nations have great records, others not so much. Then you have the whole complexity of name variations.
Yeah.
and transliteration issues.
Transliteration.
Yeah, think about a name written in, say, Arabic or Cyrillic script. It can be spelled many different ways using the Latin alphabet we use in English. That makes searching databases for consistent matches really hard.
Ah, I hadn't thought of that. Okay.
Plus, political landscapes are always changing, right? People get elected, appointed, fired, office holders change frequently. So keeping the information up to date is this constant ongoing challenge.
Right. It's a moving target.
And like we talked about earlier, getting visibility into the close associates and family members of PPs, that's particularly tough. Privacy rules, lack of public records, it's hard to map out those networks reliably.
Wow. So given all that complexity, how do financial institutions even start trying to identify PPs? What tools do they use?
They typically use a mix of technology and intelligence gathering tools. There's specialized PEP screening software.
Software.
Yeah, it scans huge databases looking for potential matches based on names, known roles, locations, things like that. They also rely heavily on external data providers.
Companies that specialize in this?
Exactly. Companies whose whole business is compiling and constantly updating PEP information from sources all over the globe, public records, news sources, government releases.
Okay.
And increasingly, they're using sophisticated risk scoring models. These models try to assess the overall risk of a client, factoring in their potential PEP status alongside a bunch of other risk indicators.
So it's kind of piecing together a puzzle using different tools and data sources.
It really is. It's an ongoing, evolving process. Definitely not simple.
And I guess with the world being so interconnected now, globalization and all that, the global dimension must add yet another layer of difficulty to this whole thing.
Absolutely. Globalization and the massive growth of cross-border finance have definitely made the task of spotting potentially high-risk PPP relationships much, much harder.
Right.
Our sources specifically highlight the heightened concern around PDPs who come from countries known for high levels of corruption or places that are under international sanctions.
That makes sense. If someone from a jurisdiction already flagged as high risk starts moving a lot of money internationally, that's going to trigger more scrutiny.
Exactly. And the methods used to hide the source and ownership of funds can get pretty elaborate.
Like what?
Using intermediaries, maybe shell companies registered in jurisdictions where ownership isn't public.
The classic hiding spots.
Or investing in seemingly legitimate, stable assets like luxury properties, expensive art,
Mm-hmm.
things that can hold and transfer value quite discreetly away from obvious financial tracking.
Right. Parking the money somewhere less obvious than a bank account.
Yeah. And then you could even have politically motivated investment schemes that are deliberately complex and really hard to unravel,
Yeah.
designed to obscure things.
So the focus isn't just on the individual PP, is it? It's also about the bigger picture, the geopolitical environment, the potential for these complex financial games.
Precisely. Financial institutions are absolutely expected to consider the overall jurisdictional risk. Where's this person from? Where's the money moving? And the broader geopolitical context when they assess their exposure to PPs.
It's about connecting all the dots.
Exactly. Understanding the whole environment in which these financial activities are happening.
Okay. So let's try and summarize our deep dive today. We've basically established that politically exposed persons, PPs, because of their positions of influence, they inherently present a higher risk for financial crime, money laundering, corruption.
Right. That potential is just higher due to their role.
Which means they need a more rigorous level of scrutiny that enhanced due diligence, EDD, from financial institutions all over the world.
That's a really clear and accurate summary, yeah. And this enhanced scrutiny, it's largely a globally coordinated effort pushed by international standards like FATFs.
Right.
And driven by this shared understanding that illicit money flowing through PEP connections can have really significant damaging effects on good governance and, frankly, global stability.
Well, this has been a genuinely insightful exploration, really clarifying.
If you could shed some light on it.
And it leaves me thinking maybe something for you, the listener, to chew on. Given this constantly shifting landscape of global politics and the ever-evolving sophistication of international finance, what are the broader implications for actually achieving genuine transparency and accountability in the global financial system, especially when it comes to effectively identifying and monitoring these PPs?
That's a big question.
It is. It's a really complex challenge with far-reaching consequences. Definitely something to think about. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.